Nori.
Hey, Chris, what's up?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Let's see. Nori, I have known you now for 4 years or so. We met at Ozumo.
Yep.
Through Miho.
Yes.
And when she introduced me to you, she wanted me to taste your wines. And as somebody that was just there kind of as a server, but had a lot of wine experience, I was really excited. And I tasted them and I realized just how special they are. And she's a huge fan of your Pinot Noir, which I am too. But one of the things that really captured me, I think, the most about your wines was kind of your vision behind the Sauvignon Blanc and the Chardonnay, which I would love for us to touch on later.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, before Ozumo, I mean, I don't really know much else. How long have you been, I guess, give us your journey.
Yep.
How you came to be where you are, where you're from originally, and just kind of where wine fell into all of it, if you don't mind.
Definitely, of course,
Okay.
yes. I came to the United States like 25 years ago, but that was nothing to do with winemaking. It's more like, because I used to work for the hotel business. So I was sent by company to come to San Francisco to work at the hotel. The company is called Hotel Nikko San Francisco. So I was born and raised in Tokyo, Japan, and I was very domestic, surrounded by 100% Japanese people, speaking only Japanese. But I was very interested in the restaurant business, and somehow I thought the wine is something so like special and fun, because I think my first encounter with the wine was my uncle's Italian restaurant. He's a opera singer. He's a Japanese opera singer. Yeah. So he was always back and forth between Japan and Italy. So he was fully influenced by Italian culture, of course, opera, of course, the food, design, those kind of stuff. So he ended up owning his own Italian restaurant. Wow. So that was in the middle of the Tokyo, the area called Nishiazabu. So even when I was younger, like 5 years old, 7 years old, I still remember that. So my uncle is my dad's side. So whenever my dad's side's family get together, we went to his restaurant. So maybe once or twice a year. And, the long table, maybe 15, 20 people.
Long dinner, 4 or 5 hours
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the nice food, great conversation, and then everybody was having a good time, right? So to me, that was like very happy moment.
Fun
too.
experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I remember there's always the candy, straw-wrapped
wicker
candy,
basket.
like cheap candy.
Right.
Of course, I didn't know what it is. But, that was the red, the liquid was like a red color.
Yeah.
And then I thought that's something like that was like a significant for me, like a fun moment.
Yeah.
So when I graduated from university in Japan, a lot of my friends, they were so interested in working for big corporations, like banking, trading, and big corporations, right? But I was not interested in none of those. I thought I want to start my career at the restaurant. But in Tokyo, there are so many restaurants, so I didn't know where to begin with.
Right.
And then I started the researching about those kind of stuff, and then I kind of found that how about the hotel business? Because especially the hotels in Japan, they house 5 or 6 restaurants in the same building, so that's a standard structure of the Japanese hotels. So I thought the hotel is a little bit more secured in terms of like financial, rather than working for a restaurant. So I decided to start working for a hotel. And then again, I was very domestic, but I was thinking about eventually I want to experience overseas. So at that point, JAL Hotels had many hotels outside of Japan. I remember like 6 hotels in the United States, like touring in Hawaii, San Francisco, LA, I think Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, kind of stuff. And then there are more than like almost 10 hotels in Europe as well. So I thought by working for hotel, I can go work for restaurants and then I can study wine, and then eventually maybe I can go overseas.
Right.
So that was the reason why I started working for the Hotel Nikko. So I worked there for 6 years. In the beginning, I worked for different hotels in Japan. I went to Osaka, Kyoto, and then went back to Tokyo. But I was not in the restaurant department. I was in the sales department.
I see.
So wearing ties, suits, and
Yeah.
making sales calls, nothing to do with restaurant,
Right.
nothing to do with wine. So at the time when I came back to Tokyo to open the one hotel in new area called Odaiba, I decided that this is not gonna. I'm not gonna be able to learn. Getting closer to the wine. So I decided to go to sommelier school by myself, meaning separate from my work. So after work, I started going to a sommelier school. I went there for almost like 2 years. So every week, each class is like a 3-hour class.
Wow.
First 90 minutes, they talk about, there's always theme, right?
Sure.
And talk about basically the lecture. And then next 90 minutes, it's blind tasting. Always 5 or 6
great.
blind tasting. Yeah. So that was very good training for me to taste the wine,
Yep.
learn about, the basics of the wine, like tasting structure kind of stuff. But I have to admit that it was like 99% of the contents of the classes were about the French wine. So
Understandably.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So but anyway, so I got the certification. I was able to get the certification of sommelier after the two years of going to that school. And then at that point, I was thinking about quitting the hotel business. And then I thought with this certification, I can find maybe manager position at the restaurant or
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then at the very same moment, my company told me, hey, no, it's time for, there's a position open in San Francisco. So if you want to go. And I was like, okay. So, going to the United States was very interesting, exciting for me. But when I think about the wine, California wine, I was not excited at all.
Sure.
Because when I learned about the wine back then at the sommelier school and those kind of stuff, everybody was saying that there's a huge quality gap between old world wine and new world wine. New world wine is low quality.
Right.
So that was my perspective, even though I didn't know anything about new world wine. So when I came to California, especially like first 3 months, I was avoiding California wine. Yeah, I love wine, so I drink wine almost every day, right? But so I was looking for the wine shop where I can find like a European wine.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So that was kind of my beginning, and then so I was living in San Francisco, working at the hotel, and then originally I thought that my tenure was supposed to be for like 2 years. And again, I was avoiding California wine, but the one day my friend told me, hey, Nori, I'm going to the winery, Napa, this weekend, the Saturday. Why don't you come?
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in California wine anyway, period. But he dragged me to the winery, and then that was a Truchard winery.
Bianca was just there on Friday.
Oh, wow. Then I saw the Truchard here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the wife of the owner showed us around the vineyard. And then they have a really nice cave, like small, nice cave. So she took us around the cave, and then I think we tasted some of the wine from the barrels. And then at the end of the tour, there's a dead end, and then there's a table and 2 glasses of Chardonnay, and then with the nice lighting, right? It's already prepped for us.
Right.
And then it was like shining gold.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Chardonnay gold color? And I was not familiar with,
Doesn't look like Chardonnay.
Yeah. Chardonnay should be more like the pale green and, more like a nuanced color, you know. But so by look, it's just so golden, the shiny golden. So it's like, oh, this is good. And then I tasted it, and wow, that was like a fruits bomb,
Yeah.
It's like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big fruits. And I just liked it. I was like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
it's just completely different style.
Way different,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, from the ones that I was used to.
Especially then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right in the heart of Robert Parker, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that style. So then I'm like, oh, shame on me. I really need to study about the California one while I'm in San Francisco because I knew that like I said, the tenure was supposed to be for 2 years, right? So back, I already lost like 3 months, right? So I was like, okay. So from that point, I took almost every weekend. Almost every opportunity, every weekend, went to Napa and Sonoma.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so from that point, my first 1 year, from that point, I hit about like 170 wineries.
Right. Wow.
And all different wineries
Yeah.
in Napa and Sonoma.
Yeah.
I have like the big map on in my room.
And you
know?
just put little
So,
dots.
yeah, exactly.
That's great. I
And
love
just
it.
check it out one by one.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, and then the more I go, the more I know about the California wine, and the more I was liking it.
Right.
Yeah, so that was kind of beginning, and then after that, my interest in wine shifted from tasting it to like the making wine, making it. I was like, what if that might be a good fun job to make wine. So when I go to tasting room, normally I talk to people who work there at the tasting room, right?
Yeah.
But in some occasions, I was able to meet like winemakers. And I was asking the same question to those winemakers. So my question was, how did you learn winemaking? Because I was I couldn't get it because in France or like old world wines,
multi-generational.
normally, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or because I was born,
Sure, yeah, exactly.
in the house, and my dad was, there's the vineyard just right, in my backyard.
Yeah.
And then my father, grandfather, they're all making wine,
Right,
kind
right,
of stuff.
yeah.
So that's kind of normal. But here in California, a lot of wineries are owned by corporations. So the winemakers are employees too. So they are employees. So they're not growing up in such an environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the vineyard, right? So that's why I was asking the question, and then I would say like maybe like 80%, more than 80% of answers are, oh, I went to UC Davis.
Right.
What is UC Davis?
Yeah.
Davis? So next I started research. Oh, UC, this is like UC Berkeley,
Right.
UCLA.
Yep.
And then, there's a town called Davis.
Yeah.
And then, there's the department called Viticulture and Enology. Oh, wow, you can study about the winemaking.
More school.
So, exactly. So,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, this is it. This is what I need to do. So that was kind of, the moment. And then, so at that time, I was still working at, living in San Francisco, working at the hotel. But I had already made up my mind that once my tenure is done, I'm going to quit the hotel,
Right.
stay in the United States, and then go to UC Davis. And so that was kind of beginning of my journey.
Wine
here.
journey.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Wow. And so after UC Davis, how long were you UC Davis, and then how long until? I know that you were making wine, kind of at other wineries for a long time. But
Yeah.
who was the first person to kind of like take you under their wing, or the first person to kind of allow you the space to make the wine?
Yes. So I started going. So I was accepted by second bachelor program at UC Davis, and then luckily I was able to transfer all of my GE from the university in Japan.
Great.
Even though I didn't study nothing at the college in Japan,
Sure, yeah.
all cheating and everything.
Right.
But I did have some credit, left. So luckily, I spent only 2 years at the UC Davis, and then I was able to graduate. So my first harvest experience back in 2002, and then this is the winery called Corvus Newland, which doesn't exist anymore. After that, the Corvus Newland was sold, and then ownership changed twice, and now it is Silena's Winery in Napa. So that's actually, I was custom crushing Noria wine, my wine, for a long time. But then, so after that, I worked at the different wineries. When I was working at the UC Davis, when I was going to UC Davis. And then I got the full-time job at the Napa Wine Company. So Napa Wine Company was very great experience because that's the old big custom crush facility, right? So at the time when I was in the lab, I was a lab supervisor, but there are about like 50 winemakers are always in and out, making different wines, and they have their own stories and philosophies.
Right.
They're all different.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the approaches are all different.
And they're all right.
They're all good wines,
right.
but the different approaches.
Right.
So I was able to learn about that, so many different approaches, and especially because I was in the lab, so I was able to taste every single lots.
Right.
And then I was able to ask questions to the winemakers too. So that was very good experience. I worked there for like 2 years, but to me that was equivalent to like more than 5 years of experience working at the one winery.
Well, you're seeing so many wines made by so many people in one facility. I mean, that's kind of like baptism by fire.
Yeah, exactly. So that was great experience. And then also each winemakers, I could see, their personalities and, the behavior. And then it was very interesting, but their wines kind of follow their personality and the behaviors too. Yeah, funny. Style. Yeah. So that was a very good experience, yeah.
And then after your time at the Custom Crush, you were still making wine. And then you were working at the Custom Crush, and then what was
that's
your
right.
next
So
phase of evolution?
so I worked at the Napa Wine Company for 2 years, but then I started feeling like, that was very great study for me, but I wanted to work for one winery so that I can put more of my passion and love to the wine. So I got the job at the Artisan Winery in Caneros. So my first year I was hired as a lab manager, but the next year assistant winemaker left. So I was able to fill that position.
Right.
So I became assistant winemaker there. Yeah. So I was there for like 7 years. So I worked under Dave Dobson. Dave used to be he's from Kendall Jackson, and then he was a winemaker at Rutherford Hill, and then he came to Atessa. First 4 years I worked with Dave, and then after that Dave left, and then Mark Beringer came from he's a 5th generation Beringer family. And then he used to be a winemaker at the Duckhorn. Yeah. So
I forgot about the Duckhorn.
Yeah. So he became my boss for 3 years, and so that was a very good experience too. As a assistant winemaker, worked for 2 different winemakers, and their different styles are completely different
styles.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the time when I was working on Atessa as assistant winemaker. I had the opportunity to start my own wine brand, which is called Noria. Yeah. So that was back in 2010.
Right.
Yeah.
And your thought of winemaking since 2010, have you changed dramatically from what you originally set out towards? Has your style changed? How has that evolution been?
Yeah, I think if I look back, the core part is, I think, the same. But of course, as I get older and then have more experience, I think now it's more. So before, when I just started it, first of all, the concept of Noria is to produce California wine that can go with Japanese food.
Right.
So that was from the get-go the concept of my wine. And because, being Japanese, grew up there. And then when I was in Japan, of course, I don't notice it, right? I didn't notice it. But after you moved away from Japan and Japanese food culture, I really realized how good that is, the Japanese food culture. So I spent like very long time, like more than 6 months, to come up with the concept of my new brand, because as you know, the wine industry is very competitive. So I really thought that you have to have really a solid story, and then the solid concept as well.
It need to be a little niche, but also it needs to make sense.
That's right. Yeah. So to me, it has to be like Japanese food culture. So I wanted to kind of be with Japanese food culture. At the same time, I wanted to kind of challenge it too. So then this concept came.
Right.
So but I think in the beginning, I did have some like a style in my mind, and then I tried to push the wine
Yeah.
towards.
I see.
Yeah, it's more like to be honest, yeah, it's more like kind of push, kind of by adding, not adding means it's like try to push the style
right.
towards
More
where I want to
oak
go.
or-
Yeah,
yeah. More time on the
instead of going
skins or-
natural,
Yeah.
more hands off.
Yeah.
So that definitely right now I don't really do much anymore.
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah. So then I think that speaks better. I think if you don't. It's better not to do anything.
Yeah, it's great evolution.
Yeah, and then once you realize, like in the United States, that we are called like winemakers, but once you realize that, we're not really making wine.
Yeah, right.
Just the grapes are done by nature, and then we'll just be there to
Control
make sure.
the fermentation.
Yeah, that's right. Just be there. So once like I realized that, then I think my wine became more natural, and then I think they speak by itself.
Right.
Yeah. Just like the language, so my English, right?
Sure.
So when I came here to work for a hotel, of course I didn't speak any English language, but then in the beginning, you always try to speak like in the right way.
Yeah.
The like perfect grammar or something
Perfect.
like that.
Yeah.
And that basically hinders you from speaking naturally. Yeah.
Right.
And then once you realize that your English is not going to be good, even though if you live another 100 years, it's the same. Once you kind of give it up,
Sure.
then all of a sudden, you become more natural.
Right,
So regardless of, the grammatically correct or not, but you can communicate.
People can fill in the blanks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of same thing,
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I have. I took Mandarin for a very short period of time, and I was so focused on like the tone, right? And it was like I felt like I had to be so rigid.
Yeah.
But then I would speak to like my friends that I knew or people that I worked with in the restaurant, and I'd go like, "Does my tone sound okay?"
Yeah.
They're like, well, I know what you mean. Like,
That's right.
you don't have to be perfect. I can still understand what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
The way that you put the words in order makes sense.
Yes,
Even
yes.
if, grammatically it's a little off. It's not the end of the world, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And
So
then being able
natural.
to just speak naturally, I think
That's
is-
right, that's right.
That's when the comfort sets in.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
That's great. And so you were speaking on how you the intention behind the wine is to create wines that pair with Japanese cuisine. And I know that body wise, you've kind of like modeled your white wines in a very particular way. And then reds, I would obviously love for you to elaborate on. But could you just tell the listeners how you have modeled your whites?
Yes. So I make Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, both from Sonoma. Sauvignon Blanc from Sebastopol, so the Russian river, and then the Chardonnay from the Sonoma Carneros. Yeah. So those two white wines, my white wines, the model of those two white wines, and not someone else's Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay, made somewhere else. I'm basically modeling after sake.
Right.
Yeah. So when we talk about the sake, there are two big different categories. One is called junmai and one is called ginjo. So the junmai is like traditional sake, bold, big. It's more like a taste of alcohol,
Right.
more taste of rice.
Right.
And then most of the time served at the room temperature. Some Japanese restaurant use the udon cup to serve with.
Sure.
Or this is the kind of wine that you go to Japan in the wintertime. You eat ramen outside. Outside's so cold. So they want to warm
Right.
this junmai sake and then drink. So that's a junmai style. It's more traditional style. So ginjo style is they use newer technique, but basically they polish the rice much, much farther. So take the cleaner rice and then do the fermentation at the lower temperature, just like our white wine fermentation. So as a result, it's fresh, vibrant, and then the fruity. So that's the ginjo style. So my Sauvignon Blanc is modeling after Dai Ginjo.
Sure.
Dai means like the big,
Big. Yeah.
big Ginjo style.
Yeah.
So I'm modeling after that. And then my Sauvignon Blanc, my Chardonnay is modeling after Junmai Ginjo style. Okay. So I should have told you this one before. But so now the younger generation of sake makers, they make hybrid.
Right.
So that it's called Junmai Ginjo. So that's the new category. But so Junmai Ginjo, that's a hybrid. so it has both characteristics.
Right.
So it's more complex, has a complexity and the depth. So my Chardonnay is more going after that
Right.
style.
Yeah. And that thought process is kind of the thought process of how it pairs with the food. Your thought is the body of the wine is what's helping it pair with the food more than trying to pair maybe all of the fruit characteristics that come in along with the cuisine, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, exactly.
And the Pinot Noirs, I mean, when I first met you, I think you were making 4 different Pinot Noirs at the time. I don't know if you still are, but
Yes,
it was a Chard, a Sauvignon Blanc, and 4 Pinot Noirs.
Yes.
And
So
I know
it
you're
used to
making a
be-
little more now.
No,
but
yes, it used to be Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and then and then 2 Pinots.
2 Pinots. Okay.
Now
All
I
right.
make 4 Pinots.
4 Pinots. All right. My apologies.
Yeah.
And the thought behind the Pinot Noir is similar.
Yeah, but it's not modeling after the sake, though,
Sure.
of course. But to me, it's very difficult to pair the Japanese food with the red wine that has heavy tannin or like structure because. When I let's say the definition of Japanese food is to me the delicate, elegant dishes made from fresh and seasonal ingredients. So it's all about the ingredients and the harmony of the ingredients. So that's the key to enjoy the Japanese food. So if you pair the Japanese food with red wine, and then if the red wine has big tannin, and it overwhelms it.
Right.
Yeah, and then even like high alcohol, it overwhelms it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my thinking of pairing my red wine with Japanese food is, for example, let's say I think the textbook of pairing, food pairing with wine is, let's say, the Cabernet with a steak, because the acidity and tannin of the wine cuts the fattiness of the meat, right? So after you eat the one bite, you can refresh your mouth, cleanse your mouth, refresh your mouth, so you can move on to the next bite. So that's something that I was taught how you pair it. But to me, my mentality is completely opposite. When you think about my red wine and Japanese food, the Japanese food has such a delicate harmony and also the aftertaste. You really want to enjoy the aftertaste as well of the harmony. So you really don't want to lose that harmony or aftertaste with wine, right? So to me, I want to have the red wine that can take that the food afterwards. Aftertaste, and then move carry it over to the next flavor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you don't want to cut it.
Right.
You want to just kind of convey. How to say?
Keep it up.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
So
the red wine has to have the same wavelength as the Japanese food. So to me, the key is the freshness, vibrancy, and then transparency.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
and it's seasonal.
That's right. So that's the kind of keyword for my red wine, which is all Pinot Noir.
Right.
But yeah.
And then you're just kind of sourcing from different vineyard sites and then trying to also translate kind of the terroir of each of those places.
That's right.
Individually.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I'm really excited to talk about is the new transition or new evolution since the last time I've seen you, because it's been a while, unfortunately. You've now opened your own winery facility in Berkeley.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
So if somebody wants to come and visit you, your hours are Monday to Friday? Or?
Yeah. So the tasting room is now open on Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
So Thursday, Friday, the tasting room is open between 3 and 8.
Great.
And then Saturday, Sunday, we open from 12 to 7. Yeah. And then at least once a week, either Saturday or Sunday, we have pop-up.
I've seen the pop-ups. I really want to go. They look cool.
And then also we do have a daily menu as well. So that's a great addition, and I'm so excited about it. But private chef, his name is Ian. So Ian's kitchen just happened to be half block from our winery, and then he loves wine. He has made his own wine too. So he found out that there's a new winery, half block from his kitchen. So he became our regular customer.
Yeah.
And then we became really good friends.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we were like, okay, so let's make some the fun bites. Yeah. So now we have 5 menus.
Wow.
Yeah. So he, because we don't have a license for the food.
Right.
So basically, he makes it. We develop the menu together specifically for our wine.
I see.
Yeah. And then, so he makes it, and it comes with a 4-ounce jar.
That's great.
With the crackers.
Yeah.
So, so those menus are always available.
That's perfect.
Except when we have pop-up, something going on.
Yeah. And then the pop-ups, I mean, it seems like you've done a lot of different things, but it's almost always food focused.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. The popular one is like a sushi. We do have a sushi pop-up.
I've seen like the
one.
omakase style
Yeah.
pairings.
That's right.
That's
cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating. And I also think that's a really great way to kind of like draw people in. And you're kind of over there in this little neighborhood or area in Berkeley where there's several other wineries.
Yes.
That are all making very different styles of wine. But I was talking to, I wish I could remember where he worked. I was talking to a guy at High Treason, and he said he was working, maybe it was Tessier, maybe it was Donkey and Goat.
Oh, okay.
And he
yeah.
said, you guys bottle trade all the time, and
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
are
yeah.
trading wines all the time. That's so great. I love to see that like little sense of community because, as you mentioned earlier, you know, a lot of wineries in Napa are owned by corporations or owned by groups.
Yep.
And not to say that there's not as much of kind of like this like personal connection, but I feel like it's spreading out a little bit more. So it's nice to see it in Berkeley.
Yeah, definitely.
Where everybody
It's
can
great.
be
Yeah.
friends.
I love the area to begin with. So even though I was working at the wineries in Napa and Sonoma for more than 20 years, but I always lived in East Bay.
Right.
Yeah. So for 10 years, I was living in Albany. And then at the time, so between 2011 to 2020, yeah, so it's like 10 years. So that was like 5 minutes away from where my winery is now. So I was able to see the development of the area.
Right.
I think when I just moved back then, there were only 2 or 3 wineries.
Yeah.
But now our winery is the newest one, and that's the 10th winery in Berkeley. Yeah.
Wow.
So more wineries are popping up.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then I started seeing more people coming on the weekends.
Right.
And then so our like 6 wineries are within the 1-2 blocks, so you can walk around.
That's great.
Walking distance. Yeah,
It's a lot easier than driving between wineries.
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, so they can just come to Berkeley, and then it's called the Gilman District now.
Gilman District.
It's on Gilman Street.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can just pull out the car and then hop into the winery, you
Hop
know,
in
by
the
walk.
hall.
Yeah.
That's great.
So you can do that too. And then there's 3. So 3 breweries now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then there's a Takara Sake, so the sake
Oh,
brewery
they're in Berkeley too.
Yeah. And
That's what you were saying
then
earlier.
So I think the city of Berkeley is designated that city of Berkeley designated that area district as a so Gilman district, which is wine and like alcohol and,
That's great.
and food,
Like a beverage district.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I really want to make it over there. I mean, you know, we have the little one, so it makes sense maybe for the weekend to come over in the middle of the day. And
Yeah.
have an excuse to get out of the city. You know, we're always
Definitely.
we're always busy, so it's just it's good to get out. And it'd be great to come over there and see you because I'm excited. I know that you worked on it for quite some time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Something else that I wanted to talk to you about was just kind of inspirations that you had along the way. I mean, obviously you have your history and your upbringing and the desire to pair with Japanese cuisine. And you mentioned working at Artesa with 2 different winemakers.
Yeah.
But what were some other wines early on in your career? California wines, maybe, not the old world wines.
Yeah.
They have enough credit. They don't need more credit. No. What were some wines early on in your career that you had here in California that were maybe the most impactful for you?
Impactful for me, the wine-wise. Yeah, so I like the William Sam,
Yeah.
the Pinot Noir,
Yeah.
that style. I thought, oh wow, even California, you can make nice Pinot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really, I still remember that. Yeah, that nice quality Pinot Noir
Right.
that you can produce in California. Because I originally, when I started, the career here, Pinot has been my go-to. I always love Pinot Noir, but I thought it has to be, the from Bourgogne.
Sure,
Or,
sure.
yeah. It's again, the old. I'd say that information came from the book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so that was kind of opened my eyes, like, oh, that's such a great potential. Yeah. And then so now I really think when I started going to UC Davis, and then so of course my dream was to start my own brand, and then but at the same time, no, at that time I was thinking about, okay, so let's get the degree here, and then worked at let's work at the winery for 2-3 years and some gain some experience.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was thinking about going to Europe.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, cool.
at that time I thought still the Europe is the number
that's
one,
funny.
like France is number one or something like that.
Yeah.
But now my perception completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that the California has the highest potential to be to make the best wine in the
Sure.
whole world. So of course, as a winemaker, I want to make the best wine possible. So then, so the best way is to stay here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my.
And then I guess one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about is you were talking about going to the Court of Master Sommelier. I guess
Yeah.
it was at the time then in Japan, and that they focused a lot on old world wine. I mean, aside from the Chianti on your uncle's table, I guess at the time, European wine kind of dominated the market in Japan.
Yeah.
And that shift, it seems pretty dramatic, right? In the last 20 years, it feels like the demand for California wine there is
It's
incredibly
getting bigger.
high.
Yes,
right?
getting bigger. Yeah, yeah. That I can tell because my first vintage with Noria is 2010, and luckily I got the Japanese California wine importer in Japan
Awesome.
right off the get-go.
Yeah.
So starting from my first release, which was 2012, I go to Japan like at least twice a year to promote my wine.
That's awesome.
So my importer is called Nakagawa Wine. So, but anyway, every time I go back there, of course I go to the restaurants and do some seminars, like a winemaker's dinner, and then also I go to the wine shop, right?
Yeah.
So over time, since 2012, so it's been more than 10 years, but every time I go there, the California wine, space of the California wine at the wine shop is growing bigger and bigger. Yes,
That's awesome.
yes.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's not. So you see that phenomena in Tokyo the most.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I normally go to Tokyo and Osaka. Osaka is the second biggest city in Japan. So I would say when it comes to California wine, Tokyo is already big. Osaka is becoming big too, but other cities it's still a little bit behind.
A little behind. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But these 10 years, the popularity of the California wine has grown very significantly.
It's kind of like the density of the businesses, right? Because like when I think about it too, it's like, when I lived in Texas, everybody wanted to drink California wine. But then when I moved to San Francisco, a lot of the tourists want to drink California wine, but a lot of the wine people want to drink French and Italian, right? And so it's kind of interesting to see the shift from region to region. So I'm curious how long it'll take for things to change. I mean, obviously, there's enough market for everybody. But it would be great to see, where that evolution ends up. Does it feel like you do significantly more business in Japan than you used to at the beginning?
No. It's kind of the same, I would say. Like, so I started with 300 cases back in 2010.
Right.
Luckily, the Japanese market was doing very kind enough for me. So almost all the wine went there. So because of that, 300 case became 400, and 400 became 500. But after a couple of years, there was the event of, so basically exchange rate changed just like now.
Yeah.
So I would say like about 2014, the Japanese yen became so weak, just like now, just like now. So my FOB was the same, but the retail price went up by like more than 50%.
Wow.
So I literally saw the huge, the decrease of I would say like the slowdown.
Yeah.
My sales slowed down in Japanese market. So it hit me, like very physically hit me. Oh shit!
Yeah.
So what should I do? And then I really think that because my company's in California, U.S. company. So if you make California wine, you gotta be successful in the United States.
Yeah.
In United States. Yeah. So I redid all the numbers and then ran around, got some, the money, and then but at that time I didn't have enough inventory for the US market because I was relying 100% on Japanese market.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So I had to bump up the production. So I started with the two wines, Chardonnay and Pinot, in the beginning, but in 2014, I added two more SKUs, which is a Sauvignon Blanc and then another Pinot.
That's great.
Yeah, and then so the production went up a little by little. So then I was able to release to U.S. market for the first time. But so in Japan, the sales are doing good, but the price goes double.
Yeah.
Right, like so my Pinot is like $50. It goes $100 over there.
Yeah.
After all the transportation and importer and the distributor.
All the layers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I personally don't buy I don't spend $100 for a bottle of wine, right? Yeah. So I do think that there's a limit in terms of I don't think that I can increase the quantity like 3 times, twice or 3 times in Japanese market because of the price.
Sure.
So my right now my aim is to maintain the quantity in Japan. So right now about 20% of my production goes to Japan.
I see.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier before we were recording, you're doing about 3,000 cases a year.
Yeah, getting closer to 3,000 cases.
Wow,
Yes.
That's much different than 300 cases. It's only taken
more
15 years, right? More to do.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And do you think that with the new facility, your plan is to increase production?
Yeah, but also
more?
the capacity of that my facility.
Yeah.
I think 3,000 would be maximum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so I want to go there and then see what's gonna happen. But if it's 3,000, I can comfortably control all the thing. But if it becomes more than 3,000, then I would need another facility as well. Yeah. But I think 3,000 is a good number for me right now.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's in given that you do everything yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's good too because you're. I one of my favorite stories to tell about you is I remember ordering wine from you, and I remember texting you like Thursday night, and it was like 8 o'clock at night. And it was like, "Hey Nori, sorry, can I get 2 cases of wine whenever you have time?" And you were like, "I'm so sorry, I can't come tomorrow. I'll be there Saturday morning." And I was like, "You don't have to come on Saturday morning." And you go, "It's okay." And then you showed up Friday night anyways.
That's right.
And you were like, "I just wanted to make sure you had it." And I'm like, because, distributors are cutoffs like 3. And if you don't order by 3 on Thursday, you don't get the wine until Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you were just like there. You were there the next day.
See, special service, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's I think it's really amazing to see kind of what you've done and what you're doing. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So but it's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right now, so when I was working at the different wineries, so if you're a winemaker, you kind of schedule everything, write the order, and then you have cellar crew to help you or do the lot of stuff, right? But now I write the order, but those orders come to me. Yeah. The toughest thing is just clean up the tanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's funny.
Going to the tank and it's all about the sanitation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And do you think you're gonna be adding another wine at any point, or do you feel like you're kind of maxed out?
Yes. So right now, like I said, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and 4 Pinots, right? So that's for Noria. And then the Gewürz, I'm adding Gewürz Traminer.
Cool.
To the Noria lineup.
Great.
Yeah, and then also now that we have a winery, so some people love like heavy red.
Yeah.
What's a Cabernet, right?
Yeah.
So I need to be able to cater to those people.
Sure.
So I started the Cabernet and Syrah program from Rockpile.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So my first vintage is the 2022. Right now I'm working on that Cabernet.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna bottle most likely this month or maybe beginning of September.
I see.
Yeah, and then but those 2 wines are not gonna go under Noria.
Sure.
Yeah, because I don't want to dilute the concept of the Noria.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm also thinking about so it's gonna be a different brand, different label.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you decided on that?
Not yet.
That's okay.
No, I'm thinking about it. Yes,
Sure,
yes.
sure.
It's almost,
No
almost,
worries.
almost.
No worries. And then I guess I'm really excited to hear about the Gewürz because Gewürz is something that you've been putting a little bit into your Sauvignon Blanc over the vintages,
yes.
right? Yeah.
That's right.
So where are you getting Gewürz from?
Yeah, so
right
the Gewürz
now?
from Larson Family Winery,
Okay.
where I was a winemaker for 7 years
I see.
until 2022. So the history of my using Gewürz into Sauvignon Blanc started in 2014, which is the first vintage of Sauvignon Blanc. I really wanna stick with 100% varietal wine, but when I got my first Sauvignon Blanc in 2014, it was somewhat not so attractive.
Sure.
Yeah, it was kind of straightforward, very square.
Yeah.
No attraction. So I kind of worked in a different angles, but I couldn't make it work. And then I thought, oh shit, I need the help of the different blenders.
Sure.
So originally I was thinking about in my head maybe Riesling or Albarino.
Sure.
So I got the sample, tried it. It didn't work at all, and then I realized, oh, I have Gewürz because the Larson grows the Gewürz
Sure.
in their estate, the vineyard. So I was making Gewürz every year for Larson.
Already.
Yeah. So it was in front of me. So and then in my head, it's like it's not gonna work. But then I tried just a little bit, It's like, and then all of a sudden, entrance becomes so like a prettier, more like more outgoing, and then it took care of the nice the finish as well. So like, oh, this is it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then I kind of dial down, how much, because Gewürz is such a strong, has a flavor and the characteristics.
Really
yeah. So right now I add about 3%, no more than 3%, because if you add 4%, it becomes Gewürz.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So anyway, so that that became my the regular recipe for my Sauvignon Blanc. And then now that I left Larson in 2022 to focus on my own brand Noria, so then my worry was, what about I cannot add Gewürz to my Sauvignon Blanc anymore.
Sure.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I talked to Tom Larson, the owner of the Larson. He was my boss. To basically, I negotiated with him to get like a little bit 2 tons of Gewürz. Yeah, as a grape.
Yeah.
So he agreed, no problem. So starting from last year, I basically harvested 2 tons of Gewürz, made the Gewürz wine, and then so a little bit touch of like Gewürz is gonna go to the Sauvignon Blanc,
Sure.
but I have the
enough to make your own bottling.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But I love the Gewürz as such a unique varietal, and then it's really go well with Japanese food.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Specifically, I think that's one of the wines that I think of as like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Those, like some nice Riesling, sometimes Gruner, like those are all kind of just like home runs with Japanese cuisine and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that sounds really fun. And it's also something that you have that's a little bit unique because the sourcing, Larson's located, what appellation are they in?
Sonoma Carneros.
I don't know not a lot of other Carneros Gewürztraminer.
That's true. Yes, exactly. Gewürz is very rare here.
It's pretty rare, yeah. And maybe Central Coast or I'm trying to think of like where else they have it, and it's not.
I think throughout California, it's quite rare though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just to make your life more complicated, right?
That's
more
right.
work. And then, are you allowed to disclose who you're getting the fruit from in Rockpile?
Rockpile is from Rockpile the vineyard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So all of Noria wines are single vineyard.
Right.
So has the vineyard name
Yeah.
on the label. So those Cabernet and Syrah, it's gonna be a single vineyard as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Rock
I'm
Pile
gonna use
vineyard.
Rockpile vineyard. Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's such a fascinating area. I mean, we don't have a ton of time left, but I was shocked to learn when I went to Moritzen Winery, and we were in the appellation and we were looking at things and they were talking to us. And it's one of only, I think, 5 appellations in the world that's based off of elevation. And it has to be over X number of feet above sea level to be considered rock pile AVA, which I think is really fascinating. Again, another level of
So that's the mountain fruits.
Exactly.
It's so so good. But the temperature wise, some of the mountain fruits gets warm because of the above fog line, right?
Yeah.
But the rock pile, that vineyard, I think it's a cool breeze from the the lake and those kind of influence. So it stays cool. So you see more minerality, more concentration. In the fruits. So it's very unique site.
And they plant down the hillside, right? They don't plant terraced or anything across the hillside, which is, I think, maybe that helps with the breeze kind of coming through the vineyard.
I think so.
I could be wrong. It's all theory. I don't know. But that's awesome. Great. And